then the other problem with so often was that you would, you fly in, get everything organized, and you're just praying that everything works out. And then you show up on the scene, and you've got problems like there's air conditioning noise, because I film most of this in their offices, and not in the studio. So you go in an office, and there's air conditioning noise. It's going to pick up on the tape clearly. So you wind up juggling the microphone to get rid of it. There is one section in there in the film where I'm in Arlington National Cemetery, and they had to filter the audio so heavily that the voice sounds sort of ringing for about 15 seconds. Sort of like you're speaking in an echoey room. That's a product of the audio filtering, because you can't move Arlington Cemetery, and it's only about 100 yards from a major highway, so there's terrific traffic noise and no way you'd ever do without it.
Let me ask you another question, getting back more to the Second Amendment. What future do you see in America for the Second Amendment, for armed citizenry, for politicians, understanding the true meaning of the Second Amendment, its true intent?
Well, I sort of write off politicians, but with regard to the rest of it...
That's a good point. Now, why should people write them off?
Because I think for the most part they don't care about the Constitution at all. I mean, they view that as just at best an impediment, and which of course it is. It's meant to impede the legislature doing certain things. And at the very most, maybe something, hey, the courts worry about that, so if it's unconstitutional, the courts strike it down, we don't have to worry. Never mind that we took an oath of office to support and defend the Constitution, just like a judge does.
No. Think they remember taking that oath?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they take it seriously at all. I doubt there are 5 people in Congress who seriously, must be Ron Paul and 4 others somewhere, who seriously regard that oath as morally binding in any sense. So I tend to cross them off, but the people, I think we've seen a resurgence. I think actually over the last 20 years, maybe 30, we're coming ahead. We're winning the fight. I mean, if you look at 1968, the Gun Control Act passes. It's pretty much, in fact, it passed twice. First, there was the omnibus bill, which mostly pertained only to pistols. Then a few months later, they come back with the Gun Control Act of 68, because that wasn't enough. They have to control rifles, too. They're on a roll. They're looking at maybe getting national registration. They didn't get that in 68, but they thought they had a good shot at it, and maybe they'd get it in a few years. National permit systems, everything. Look at it today. I don't think even, I mean, if you look at Brady and the other groups, they aren't even talking about that. What they're talking about is, we just want this or that common sense thing, basically want to nibble away. Well, they're still nibbling, but at least they're not in a position where even they think they can take a big bite. It's changed.
What steps do you think that we could do as gun owners, 100 million of us, as I understand the number correctly, to eliminate gun control in America?
You'll have to talk the only language, one of the only languages a politician understands, and that is votes. If you don't eliminate this, I will not vote for you, period. I don't care if you cut taxes or increase taxes or anything else. But if you don't vote to take out these provisions of the gun law, I'm not going to vote for you, period. Politicians understand that language. They may not understand their oath of office, but they understand losing votes.
This raises a very interesting question from my perspective. Again, assuming there's about 100 million gun owners in America, and this is really a guess on your part, it's speculation, that this message of votes is something that we've not been able to get 100 million gun owners to agree on.
Well, yeah, I think even among gun owners, we're not all, even gun activists are not all single issue. And that's the problem. The politician figures he can peel off enough votes with other things to where that someone will vote his way because he did the right thing on Social Security or taxes or something. And so, okay, I lose a few votes because I haven't started eliminating gun control. Well, I can write them off. The question is how many of the voters really are genuinely willing to make this just, I don't care what else you do. If you don't back me on this, I won't back you, period. I mean, obviously, if 100 million voters did that, we'd have a complete turnaround in the country. I mean, at the next election, next election, they probably just learned their lesson. Election after that, they'd pretty much have to abolish whatever you wanted if you actually had 100 million voters acting in unison.
Do you think your documentary can help 100 million gun owners finally understand the Second Amendment in its entirety and what it's all about, so that we can get closer to the point of having millions and millions of more people are going to tell the politicians, do it my way or you're fired?
I sincerely hope so. I can't guarantee it, but at least they'll understand, how the amendment got there and why we need it today.
Well, why don't we just review a little? What do you want gun owners to understand, and what do you suggest they do to help others understand, and especially the politicians?
What I'd like gun owners to understand is that the American right to arms is our oldest right, it's up there with jury trial, one of our two oldest rights, that it dates back over 1,000 years, and in fact was first written as a right recognized by Parliament over 2 centuries ago. I'd like them to realize that it was clearly intended by the framers as an individual right, that the National Guard had absolutely nothing to do with it. It's a personal right. It's your right and my right. And I'd like them to understand that it has current value today in terms of protection against tyranny, protection against genocide, and protection against criminals. Once they understand that, I think they really have a basis in the Second Amendment. What I'd like them to do is start to figure that we're going to retake this right. I mean, it's been chewed away at, and there's still groups trying to chew away at it. Essentially, it's our right, and we have to protect it for ourselves and for our kids.
Why don't you tell people again where they can order the documentary?
Oh, sure. Best bet is the webpage, www.secondamendmentdocumentary.com. That's second spelled out, not a numeral. I've also got some coupons if they want to send in on the website, but I haven't so far really had any other way of ordering. I'm just starting out here.
Now, you have another website. It's called Of Arms and the Law.
Yeah, actually, the website address is armsandthelaw.com. I didn't put the of in front of it.
Okay, and it's a daily blog, and people can come there and sign up for your alerts.
Yeah. It's a blog devoted specifically to gun laws. So occasionally I go into gun things outside of gun laws and Second Amendment studies, but I try to stick as much as I can to legislation and constitutional points. What
other points would you like to raise?
I think that probably is about the areas that I was hoping to cover. Just that, as I say, this was 4 years of production based on 32 years of research, so it is pretty extensive.
Think you got it figured out by now?
Yeah, pretty much. There's still a few murky areas, but most of them are covered.
I think that's called politicians. But
yeah.
Well, David, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on Talkin to America. I'm your host, Aaron Zellman. I'd like to remind all of you, if you don't defend your rights, don't complain when you lose them.
Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of JPFO.org or its members. Talkin to America is a production of JPFO.org.